DevOps is the scenario everybody asks these days. So that is the first thing I want to discuss. So in a company, in a software development company, you know that a methodology has been actually, adapted. So that methodology is Agile methodology. Do you have any idea about Agile methodology, Rehan and Govardhani?
No.
Govardhani, you?
I know, Sharja.
Hmm?
Yes, yes, yeah, I know.
You know, right? So
Presently, in my project, we are following with Agile methodology.
correct. So Agile is the methodology that actually every company is following now. So what is the advantage of Agile is that rather writing, if you are actually developing a product or a project, actually you have to write some code, right? So your code is the total ecosystem of your project. How are you managing your code is very really important. So frankly, Agile gives me an opportunity to divide and rule. That means I can actually divide the project into small modules called as sprints and release them accordingly. For example, if I have 3 modules in my project, sprint 1 plus sprint 2 plus sprint 3 is going to be my entire project. And you have the opportunity to release sprint 1 first, sprint 2 next, and sprint 3 next. So a simple example if I want to give you, if I'm actually having a I'm actually developing a web development project and I'm actually doing a Amazon.in website. So my sprint one is a user interface, suppose. When I'm releasing it, my client is able to see this page. This is a UI for a website, right? He's able to see and he's able to give feedback. Array, you should not put today's deals here. You have to put tomorrow's deals. So I just basically work on client's feedback and make him really happy. Changing a simple name gives him importance, right? So that is why I'm actually more keen towards working on Agile. I have the opportunity to work with the client always. So that is about Agile methodology, Rehan. Actually, the thing is there are a lot more things. Whenever a user gets an inputs or a project manager gets an inputs about the project, what does he has is he has something called as user stories. User stories are consider them as when we talk, right, consider them as a list of inputs that we are getting for the project. What is this first input? What is the second input? I note down all the inputs. For example, I have 10 user stories. Later we'll have a technical discussion with my panel or a team members and I will have more concerned talk about my project. So they tell me that out of these 10 inputs, only 8 can be going for development. Okay, all the other two are actually duplicating the work. They'll decide like that. So when you actually choose your product from a user story, this particular choice is called as a product backlog. Okay, and then when you have a product backlog, you start developing your sprint. I'm going to show you small pictures of the product backlog and user stories for more understanding. So usual interview questions, they are actually based upon Agile also because DevOps follows most of the Agile methodologies. That is why I start with Agile. So let's stop streamings and then so these are your user stories. This is how you map your project details when you have a client call. You have 21 user stories. You have discussed 21 things with your client, out of which you're selecting few. That is what also I'll show you that. So product backlog. See, I have lots of user stories, out of which I'm actually picking user stories which are going into development. Clear? Clear? Rehan, clear? This is called as product backlog. After I have a product backlog, I'll plan my sprint. Sprint is planned like, 1, 2, 3 user stories can go into one sprint. Another 2 user stories can go to sprint 2. Another 3 or 4 or 5 user stories can go to sprint 3. It is according to the requirement I will plan my sprint. Sprint is short-term goal of your project. They tell that it is a short-term goal because you're actually managing your entire project based upon your small modules called as sprints. And then when you actually release your sprints, you will have something called as a sprint backlog. Sprint backlog would look something like this. I'll show you that also. What exactly have you done on that user story? How many days of work you have done in each day, how many hours you have worked, what exactly are the things that you have actually done on that particular sprint, you have to write like this. Okay, so after developing the sprint, that means after a sprint is developed and it is released, you have something called as a sprint retrospective. So sprint retrospective is something like a feedback. So what are the positive things of my sprint, negative things, how to make it better. Okay, so every day in the office, if you're following agile methodology, the first thing you do is when you go to the office, you'll have something called as Scrum meetings. So terminology is really important. Scrum meetings. So Scrum meetings are stand-up meetings with the team member. If, for example, we are 3 to 4 people in this training right now, if you consider us as a team, we talk to each other regarding the work, which is not a usual scenario. In usual scenario, people don't talk about work. They talk all the other things in the office, rather sharing their knowledge. So when it comes to their leaving the company, they have to do something called as a knowledge transfer, which is not proper. They don't even remember what they have done. So that is the reason why these Scrum meetings help every team member understand how the other's work is sitting on theirs. For example, Rehan is doing a user interface, I'm using a development. How my development is going to help that user interface is what I'm going to talk in that particular Scrum meeting regularly. So everybody is aware what exactly is happening with the project. And at the end of the day, when the project is ready, you'll have something called as a burn down chart. Burned out chart is something that will show you information about how many days you have worked on the project. Are there any days that you have left out with, or you have wasted any time? So everything you will be learning by the help of burned out chart. This is the chart that your project manager will see the productivity of the team. At the end of the day, he'll see this and he'll get to know if there are more days that you're taking for your work. He'll tell you, no, you have to speed up your project. You have to speed up your work. Am I clear? Am I clear? If I am fast, you can tell me I can be a little bit slow. Is this pace okay?
Yeah, this is okay.
Okay. So now, for example, I'm telling, right, we are actually releasing this particular sprints, and in this I'm talking about the release cycle of the sprints as well. So for example, I have a development scenario and a deployment scenario. Deployment means when your product is ready and you actually install that product in the production environment, and your client or other people will be able to see that. That is what we call as deployment. Okay, so sprint 1 is ready. So you are not the person who is going to deploy. No, you're not the person who is going to deploy. There is an operations team who is working with you, who is responsible for deploying your entire project. So what they do is sprint 1 is ready. The operations team is able to deploy sprint 1. Sprint 2 is ready. They're able to deploy sprint 2. Sprint 3 is ready, but still they are at sprint 2. And sprint 4 is ready, they are still at sprint 2. Sprint 5 is ready, they are at sprint 3. What is happening? What is happening? The rate at which you're developing, is not equivalent to the rate at which you're deploying. Only because you have planned your development in a large scenario like this. Like, you have planned it perfectly. That is why it's working wonderfully. But in your deployment scenario, it actually is slowing down. It's actually creating a bottleneck for us. So people have thought of other things things, and then they thought that they'll have another methodology, and they came up with something called as DevOps. DevOps borrows everything from Agile. It's a complete Agile process, plus gives few advantages for this operations team. Okay, am I clear? Am I clear? You are actually, when you want to define DevOps, everybody defines it as a collaboration between the development and operations team to work together to actually develop a new product. So that is how you define DevOps. Okay, so I want to actually give you another scenario like this. Can I go ahead? Are you clear till here? Am I clear?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about another real-time scenario. What happens sometimes? What happens sometimes? I'm a project manager and I get an input for the project. Suppose I'm actually developing a product with a Java 7 version. That is what my client requirement is. So what I do is I have two teams. I have a development team and operations team both. I discuss with them because the operations team is a team which is responsible for installing the infrastructure. Infrastructure means the computers that are existing in your company, right? Whatever the computers that you see in your company are not installed by you, right? Somebody is installing it for you and you're using them. That infrastructure is provided by the operations team. So the project manager discusses, and they actually decide over Java 7, and both have this information about Java 7. And the development team starts working on Java 7. There is a client call suddenly. They have a client call, and the client says Java 7 is far gone. There is something called as Java 8 which has more features, and he wants the product to be developed on that. Because it is just a starting phase, everybody would think over. This time the project manager will have a discussion with the technical architect and the team members. He will not call the system administrator. Okay, so what they do is, in Linux it is very easy to update a software. They update on their machines and they start working on the product. So when the team develops a product, a j8.jar is ready with them. But in the operations team to deploy, they have an environment of Java 7. Will it work? The team takes their work and they want to deploy it in the ops room, it fails. So there is a rollback. Rollback is when your project is not working. There is some failure. So rollback is a very serious issue in the company, because you're actually at the final stage of your project and it is not working. So that gives a big high time for everyone. Everybody has to sit, and because of the environment mismatch, they had a rollback. They'll know that. They start blaming each other. You're responsible for the rollback because you didn't install the correct environment. The development team will actually start blaming system admin. System admin tells them that I have no proper information regarding the project and I'm not actually aware. Okay, so that's a real-time scenario. It is real. It is truly happening actually. So you are working in a team. Kishore. Who is Kishore?
Hello, Shalija,
You're working in a team.
Kishore is joining newly, I think.
Sharath, yes.
Kishore కొత్తగా జాయిన్ అవుతున్నాడు, సో అందుకోసమని ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి అడిగాను నేను.
Fine. So there is an environment mismatch. So you're working in a team, but you're not working together. That doesn't make any sense, right? You're working in a team, you call yourself a team, you call it a team effort, but you're not working together, which doesn't make any sense, right? So that is the reason why people have come up with this methodology also, DevOps, where you are responsible from the start cycle of the project till the deployment cycle. DevOps means you own the project life cycle. I am a DevOps person. I am responsible for each and everything in my project. I will be informed. I'll be aware. So with the kind of tool set that DevOps is giving me, I'm going to help the entire team. Am I clear? Small thing I'll tell you, simple thing. So if you work for a company, you will understand. So whenever your email is not working or some environment variable in your server is failed, actually you call the system admin guy. Hey system admin, my email is not working, or some environment variable has failed in the server, or proxy is blocking this site. So whenever there is trouble is when the ops team usually gets into a picture. Otherwise, we are not even bothered. So they sit in a room full of computers and they're actually busy setting up servers, setting up environments for the company. So rather that this particular people are involved in the entire process is when the project is going to get better. So that is the reason why DevOps has emerged as a methodology which is going to stay in the market. So if you're learning Java 7, there is Java 8. So after Agile, now it's DevOps. If something comes right as a methodology, it's going to be definitely borrowed from this DevOps methodology. DevOps is going to stay in the market. It's been there very profoundly from the past 6 to 7 years, and it's famous from the past 3 to 4 years. Okay, I hope I'm clear, and I'm going to actually tell you how I'm actually going to schedule my training. So in DevOps, automation is the word that is very high, very important. That means everything in DevOps methodology can be automated. Rather doing a work for 2 days, I'm going to do the work in 52 or 50 minutes. It's an advantage for the company, right? So how am I doing it is that automation is has come to me with the kind of tools that DevOps is giving me. For example, the source control management system, or so let us call it as SCM, or version control. It's Git. Second one is continuous integration. So Jenkins, in Jenkins I'm going to introduce Maven and Sonar, Covetura, a lot more of other things, Covetura and a lot more of other things, and continuous deployment, I'll call it as configuration management. The tools I'm going to use is Chef, Puppet, and continuous monitoring, Nagios, and virtual environment, Docker, Vagrant, and AWS. Whatever I have used for DevOps in AWS, I'm going to show you. So this is how my training is structured. Talking about each module, actually, I would definitely want to talk about that. I will talk in the next session when we have a regular one. But how do you find it? You find new terminology. I understand that it is structured like this. It is going to take 30 to 35 hours. So how do you find it? Like, when you look at it, people actually have to understand one thing when you are actually open to DevOps. DevOps is not a single technology or anything. You have multiple tools available in the market. Whatever the tools that I have written here, right? Git, Jenkins, Chef, Puppet, Nagios, Vagrant, all these, right? These are all open source. These are all free. So when you go to a company, how best you are actually taking the advantage of the open source is what DevOps is going to give me. Okay? So that's that. So how do you feel this? How do you, after this demo, how do you exactly understand about DevOps?